You know what is strange? People today can talk every single day, share reels, stay awake till 10 a.m. together, act like the matter to each other, and still pretend none of it is serious. That is the part that feels confusing now. Nobody wants to ask, what are we? Nobody wants to admit, I got attached. Nobody wants to look like the person who cares more. Because somehow, caring became embarrassing. And maybe you felt this yourself. You see their notification, and your mood changes instantly. You wait for their reply longer than you should. You notice when their energy changes. You notice when they become dry. You notice when they suddenly take longer to respond even though they're online. But instead of asking directly, you act normal. Because modern relationships taught people something dangerous. The less emotional you look, the safer you are. So now everybody is trying to seem unbothered, even when they're overthinking everything. And honestly, this generation overthinks relationships more than it experiences them. People analyze reply times. People notice tone changes in one-word texts. People stare at seen notifications like it's some psychological test. And half the time, nobody even knows if the other person actually lost interest or if they're just pretending to be less available. That's how bad communication has become. Two people can genuinely like each other and still create confusion because both are trying too hard not to look attached. And social media made this mentality even worse. Because now everybody feels replaceable. That's the real issue. Not heartbreak, replacement. The feeling that no matter how close you get to someone, there's always another person one swipe away. One better looking person. One funnier person. One new conversation. One random DM at midnight. And because people see endless options online every day, they stop treating connections like something stable. Everything feels temporary now. That's why people hesitate before becoming emotionally honest. Because nobody wants to feel stupid later. Nobody wants to be the person who cared deeply while the other person moved on easily. And honestly, people have seen this happen too many times. Someone says, I'm not leaving. 2 weeks later, they disappear. Someone acts obsessed with you for months, then suddenly becomes distant, like nothing ever mattered. Someone promises consistency, then slowly stops trying once they know you're attached. After experiencing things like this enough times, people stop relaxing emotionally. Now everybody has defenses. People pretend not to care first. People hold back emotions. People avoid double texting, even when they want to. People wait hours before replying just to avoid looking too available. Think about how exhausting that is. Humans are literally strategizing basic communication now. Not because everyone is manipulative, but because people are scared. Scared of looking foolish. Scared of being too invested. Scared of giving someone emotional importance who can wake up one day and choose somebody else. And the sad part is, most people actually want the same things. They want reassurance, consistency, effort, someone who genuinely chooses them. But modern dating culture keeps rewarding emotional distance. The person who cares less usually looks more powerful. The person who replies slower looks less attached. The person who stays emotionally detached seems more in control. So naturally, people start copying that behavior, even when it slowly destroys their ability to connect honestly. That's why so many relationships now feel emotionally incomplete. People talk daily, but still feel unsure. People flirt constantly, but avoid serious conversations. People share intimacy, without clarity. And after a while, that uncertainty starts affecting people mentally because confusion is exhausting. At least rejection is clear. Confusion keeps people stuck, wondering, did they lose interest? Am I overthinking? Should I text first? Am I bothering them? Do they actually care, or am I just convenient? And eventually people become emotionally tired, not because they don't want love anymore, but because modern relationships started feeling psychologically unsafe. Everybody wants connection, but nobody wants the humiliation of caring more. And maybe that's why so many people secretly struggle with something they never talk about. Not jealousy, not insecurity, something deeper, the feeling that they're easily replaceable. Think about how often people compare themselves now. Not once a month, not once a week. Every single day. You open your phone and immediately see hundreds of people living different lives. People who look better. People who seem funnier. People who appear more successful. People who seem more interesting. And even if you consciously know social media isn't real, your brain still notices. Your brain still compares. Your brain still asks questions. What if they find someone better? What if I'm not enough anymore? What if I'm just temporary? Most people never say these fears out loud, but you can see them in their behavior. You can see it when someone suddenly becomes distant after getting attached. You can see it when someone constantly needs reassurance. You can see it when someone pushes people away before those people get the chance to leave. A lot of what looks like confidence today is actually fear wearing expensive clothes. Because many people walk into relationships already expecting disappointment, already expecting abandonment, already expecting things to end. And when you expect something to end, you never fully relax. You never fully trust. You never fully invest. You're always holding a small part of yourself back. Just in case. Just in case they change. Just in case they lose interest. Just in case they find somebody else. And honestly, that mindset changes relationships more than people realize. Because people stop experiencing the present. Instead, they spend the entire relationship preparing for a future that hasn't happened yet. They're laughing together, but secretly worrying. They're texting each other, but analyzing everything. They're getting closer, while simultaneously planning how they'll recover if things fall apart. And that's exhausting. Imagine trying to build trust with someone while your mind constantly prepares for betrayal. Imagine trying to feel loved while you're always waiting for evidence that the love is disappearing. That's the reality for a lot of people now. Not because they're broken, not because they're toxic, because uncertainty became normal. People have seen too many situationships, too many ghostings, too many sudden personality changes, too many stories that started intensely and ended without explanation. So eventually, people stop believing consistency is real. They start treating every connection like it's temporary. And when everything feels temporary, people become emotionally cautious. That's why somebody can genuinely like you and still seem emotionally unavailable. That's why somebody can miss you and still avoid texting first. That's why somebody can care deeply and still act detached. Sometimes it isn't a lack of feelings. Sometimes it's fear. Fear of needing someone more than they need you. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of becoming another person someone used to talk to. Because if we're being honest, almost everyone has had that experience now. Watching someone who once felt important slowly become a stranger. watching conversations disappear, watching effort disappear, watching memories become irrelevant to somebody else. And after experiencing that enough times, people start protecting themselves automatically. The problem is, those same walls that protect people from pain also block intimacy. Because real connection has always required uncertainty. There has never been a version of love where guarantees existed. There has never been a version of caring where rejection was impossible. There has never been a version of attachment that came without risk. Yet modern culture keeps searching for ways to avoid that risk completely. People want closeness without vulnerability, love without uncertainty, attachment without possibility of loss. But that's not how human connection works. And maybe that's why so many people feel stuck. Because they're trying to protect themselves from the very thing required to create meaningful relationships in the first place.